What started as a clever slasher flick became a game-changing masterpiece that revived horror in the 90s. From real-life inspirations and secret cameos to on-set chaos and shocking twists, these are 20 weird and surprising facts about Scream. Number 1. That terrifying opening with Casey Becker alone at home, getting a call from a stranger, wasn't pure fiction. Writer Kevin Williamson drew inspiration from a real-life murder spree that terrified Gainesville, Florida in 1990. Known as the Gainesville Ripper, Danny Rolling brutally unalived 5 college students, and the media coverage haunted Williamson. One night while home alone, he heard a strange noise, panicked, and started imagining, what if someone was watching me right now? He grabbed a knife and called a friend, and that anxiety became the spark for Scream's first 10 minutes. The phone call, the flirtatious teasing that turns sinister, and the sudden eruption of violence were all born from that real fear. Williamson didn't want to glorify murder, he wanted to capture the dread of vulnerability in a supposedly safe suburban home. The realism of that fear made the scene so disturbing, audiences didn't know whether to scream or cover their eyes. Number 2. The Ghostface mask, one of horror's most iconic images, wasn't custom designed at all. During location scouting, one of the producers discovered it in an old box inside a Northern California house they were touring as a potential filming site. The mask was actually a cheap Halloween prop created by Fun World, inspired by Edvard Munch's painting The Scream. Wes Craven instantly fell in love with its warped expression, a mix of comedy and terror, but securing the rights to use it wasn't easy. The studio had to negotiate with Fun World to legally include it in the film. Early drafts even featured alternate designs, including one with glowing red eyes and another more realistic face, but none captured that eerie simplicity. The final mask, paired with the black robe, became an instant classic. Number 3. To keep the tension high and performances authentic, Wes Craven kept the film's big secret, the identity of the killer hidden even from the cast. During most of filming, actors were only given partial scripts, with fake pages used to throw them off. Neve Campbell later said that everyone on set had their own theory about who Ghostface was, and the constant guessing game kept the paranoia real. Even during key murder scenes, Craven would have crew members wear the Ghostface costume so no one could tell who was behind the mask. Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich, the actual killers, didn't even know how their reveal would be shot until the final days. That raw confusion translated perfectly on screen. Everyone looked genuinely uncertain, terrified, and suspicious. The secret was so closely guarded that early test audiences were required to sign confidentiality agreements. Number 4. One of the best performances in the movie, Matthew Lillard's manic portrayal of Stu Maker, almost never happened. He wasn't even at the audition. Lillard was tagging along with his girlfriend, who was auditioning for another film in the same building. A casting agent saw him in the hallway, struck up a conversation, and asked if he'd like to read for Scream. Lillard shrugged and said sure, and nailed it. His wild, unpredictable energy stood out instantly. On set, Lillard improvised many of Stu's funniest and most disturbing moments, including the infamous line, "My mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me," during the finale. His mix of charm and psychotic glee perfectly balanced the movie's humor and horror. Lillard later admitted he had no idea the movie would become such a phenomenon, he just wanted to have fun. Decades later, his accidental audition remains one of the best right place, right time stories in horror history. Number 5. If you look closely, you'll spot Wes Craven himself in a hilarious cameo. He plays the school janitor wearing a red and green striped sweater and a brown fedora. Sound familiar? That's because it's a direct nod to Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street, Craven's own creation. It's one of those blink and you miss it moments that perfectly captures Scream's meta-humor. Craven wanted to poke fun at his own legacy while showing how far horror had evolved. The joke landed perfectly on audiences in the no-howled, while casual viewers just saw a weird janitor. Craven later said the cameo was his favorite part of the film because it symbolized him passing the torch from the supernatural horror of Freddy to the grounded realism of Ghostface. It was his way of saying, the nightmares have left Elm Street and they've moved into the real world. Number 6. The fake blood in Scream became almost as iconic as the killer himself, and it wasn't fancy Hollywood magic. The team used a simple mix of corn syrup and red food coloring, similar to what Alfred Hitchcock used for Psycho. But Wes Craven wanted the blood to look fresh, thick, and disturbingly real under camera lights. The special effects crew spent weeks testing different mixtures to find the perfect shade. Too bright looked cartoonish, too dark looked fake. The final recipe had a sticky texture that clung to clothes and skin, making cleanup a nightmare. Neve Campbell later joked that by the end of shooting, she was permanently stained red. During the finale, the crew used so much of the mixture that it started to smell sour under the hot lights. Despite the mess, the blood became an essential part of the film's gritty realism, a visual reminder that, beneath the satire, Scream was still a horror movie with bite. Number 7. Drew Barrymore wasn't meant to die in the first 10 minutes. She was supposed to survive the whole movie. Originally cast as Sidney Prescott, Barrymore shocked everyone by asking to switch roles just weeks before filming began. Her idea? Kill off the biggest star right away and keep the audience completely off balance. Wes Craven loved it. That bold move redefined horror, and no one felt safe anymore. The opening sequence took 5 grueling days to shoot, with Craven meticulously choreographing each scream, breath, and camera movement. Barrymore's tears were real too. Craven reportedly kept her emotionally raw by discussing animal cruelty between takes to keep her shaken. The result was one of cinema's greatest horror openings. Shocking, brutal, and unforgettable. Barrymore's choice gave Scream its most iconic moment and set the tone for everything that followed. Number 8. Before it became Scream, the movie had a totally different name, Scary Movie. That's right, the same title later used by the parody series mocking this very film. Kevin Williamson's script was always self-aware and full of meta-horror humor, so the working title fit perfectly. But after production wrapped, producer Bob Weinstein heard Michael Jackson's song, Scream, blasting in his car and decided it captured the film's sharp, modern energy better. Wes Craven initially resisted, thinking it sounded too generic, but eventually agreed it gave the film a punchy identity. Ironically, the parody Scary Movie was named after Scream's original title, a full-circle moment that perfectly sums up how this film blurred the line between satire and slasher. The name change wasn't just cosmetic, it elevated Scream from clever horror to pop culture phenomenon. Number 9. Filming Scream wasn't without controversy. The production originally planned to shoot inside a real high school in Santa Rosa, California. But just before filming began, local parents and the school board pushed back, citing concerns that the movie's violence and teenage killings were inappropriate for a school setting. Their decision came shortly after a real-life violent incident in the area, making the community extra sensitive. The board ultimately banned the production from filming on campus, forcing the crew to scramble for new locations. Wes Craven was furious they were already behind schedule, and losing time meant losing money. As a subtle act of rebellion, the filmmakers added a snarky note in the end credits. No thanks whatsoever to the Santa Rosa City School District Governing Board. That line stayed in the final cut. Ironically, the film's commentary on media violence and moral panic became even more relevant because of that controversy. It blurred the line between fiction and reality, turning Scream from a movie about fear into a movie that caused it. Number 10. Roger L. Jackson, the chilling voice behind Ghostface, was deliberately kept away from the rest of the cast. Wes Craven wanted their fear to be completely real, so Jackson's lines were delivered live over the phone during each scene. But the actors never saw him in person. His menacing tone, alternating between playful and sadistic, gave every call an unpredictable tension that kept even seasoned performers uneasy. Neve Campbell later said that hearing his voice through the phone gave her actual goosebumps. The cast had no idea what he looked like, making every take genuinely unnerving. Jackson's eerie performance became so essential that he voiced Ghostface in every sequel as an unseen villain whose voice alone could send chills down your spine. The fact that his presence was never physical only made him more terrifying. Ghostface wasn't just a killer, he was a voice in the dark, whispering your worst fears back at you. Number 11. When Kevin Williamson finished the script for Scream, originally titled Scary Movie, he didn't expect it to change his life overnight. But within days of sending it out, Hollywood went wild. Studios recognized its rare combination of sharp wit and genuine horror, something the genre hadn't seen in years. The bidding war got intense, with multiple studios competing to claim it. Dimension Films finally won, paying around $500,000, an unheard-of price for a slasher screenplay in the mid-90s. Williamson wrote the entire script in just 3 days, inspired by real crimes and classic horror tropes. That whirlwind of creativity didn't stop there. He also outlined Scream 2 and Scream 3 before the first movie even began filming. The studio knew they weren't just buying a movie, they were buying a franchise. Number 12. Before its release, Scream underwent multiple test screenings, and the audience reactions shocked the studio. Viewers weren't just scared, they were laughing and cheering. The blend of humor and horror hit harder than anyone expected. Some executives panicked, thinking people were laughing at the movie instead of with it. But Wes Craven knew exactly what he was doing. He'd crafted a tone where fear and laughter worked hand in hand. Test audiences loved it so much that word of mouth spread like wildfire. The studio realized they had something special, a horror film that didn't just scare you but made you enjoy being scared. After the screenings, marketing was retooled to highlight the film's self-aware humor and its star-studded cast. That gamble paid off. Scream became a box office juggernaut, proving that horror could be clever, funny, and terrifying all at once. Number 13. Before Scream, Courteney Cox was America's sweetheart, the lovable Monica Geller from Friends, but Cox wanted something different, a tougher, edgier role to prove she wasn't just a sitcom actress. When she auditioned for Gale Weathers, the ruthless tabloid reporter, the studio didn't believe she could pull off mean or manipulative, so she begged for the part, sending multiple letters and personally calling the producers to convince them she could play someone sharp and unapologetically ambitious. Wes Craven eventually gave in, and she nailed it. Cox's performance added a vital layer of satire, poking fun at the media's obsession with violence and fame. Her chemistry with David Arquette, who played Dewey, became so real that the two started dating during filming and eventually got married. Gale Weathers wasn't just a role, it was Cox's reinvention. She took a risk that paid off, turning a one-note, pushy reporter into one of horror's most enduring and beloved characters. Number 14. Believe it or not, Scream was almost much bleaker. In Kevin Williamson's early drafts, the film ended with Gale Weathers dying, Sidney being framed for the murders, and Ghostface escaping. The tone was far more cynical, a brutal statement about media manipulation and the public's hunger for tragedy. Wes Craven loved the audacity, but worried it would alienate audiences who'd just spent 2 hours rooting for Sidney's survival. So, he reworked it to end on a note of victory instead of despair. The surviving characters got their moment of triumph, while Gale's last-minute recovery set up future sequels. Still, traces of that darkness remain. Sidney's trauma, her distrust of fame, and the lingering idea that evil always returns. The alternate ending was never filmed, but bits of it inspired the sequels, particularly the notion that the killer's legacy outlives the killings. It's chilling to imagine how Scream might have ended if Craven hadn't decided that survival, not cynicism, was the ultimate twist. Number 15. Kevin Williamson didn't pull the idea for Ghostface out of thin air. The concept of a masked, movie-obsessed killer was actually inspired by a combination of real serial killers and horror tropes. Beyond the Gainesville Ripper, Williamson studied the psychology of figures like Ted Bundy, charming on the surface but utterly sadistic beneath. He wanted Ghostface to feel terrifying because he was human. No supernatural powers, no unkillable monster, just someone you might see at school or a party. That realism was what made the killer so frightening. The mask gave anonymity, but the voice Roger L. Jackson's mix of flirtation and menace made it deeply personal. The killer wasn't just chasing victims, he was talking to them, taunting them, and making them part of the game. Williamson's fascination with real-world evil shaped a villain who could be anyone, your classmate, your best friend, even your boyfriend. In a genre full of boogeymen, Ghostface stood out because he was terrifyingly believable. Number 16. The chaotic third-act party scene where nearly everything unravels was a production nightmare. The entire sequence took 21 consecutive nights to film, earning it the nickname, the longest night in horror history. The cast and crew worked from sunset to sunrise for almost a month straight, shooting in a real house without air conditioning, surrounded by hot lights and fake blood. By week 3, everyone was exhausted, sweaty, and delirious, but it somehow made the performances even more authentic. The tension, the exhaustion, the mania, all of it bled into the scene. The actors have said it felt like living inside a horror movie. To keep morale up, Wes Craven brought in pizza, music, and pranks to keep spirits high. When filming finally wrapped, the crew made t-shirts that read, "I survived scene 118, the movie's internal name for the party sequence. Ironically, that never-ending night became the most iconic section of the film, a masterclass in chaos, blood, and twisted humor that defined the movie's tone. Number 17. Ironically, the final girl, who redefined horror, didn't even like scary movies. Before Scream, Neve Campbell avoided the genre entirely. She found horror too stressful to watch. When she got the script, she was drawn to the story's cleverness, not the bloodshed. But once filming began, reality set in. Long nights, fog machines, and constant screaming left her genuinely on edge. During one shoot, the Ghostface actor snuck up behind her between takes just for fun, and she nearly fainted. But that real fear worked to her advantage. Sidney Prescott's terror and determination felt authentic because Campbell was channeling her own discomfort. By the end of filming, she said she had finally made peace with fear. She went from someone who couldn't watch horror movies to one of the genre's most iconic heroines, a true scream queen who didn't just survive the killer, but conquered her own. Number 18. Scream came dangerously close to being slapped with an NC-17 rating, a near-death sentence for any mainstream release. The MPAA claimed the film was too intense and sadistic for an R rating, even though Wes Craven argued that much of the violence was implied rather than shown. He had to submit the film 9 times before they finally approved it. Ironically, the scene that caused the most trouble wasn't the stabbings, it was the aftermath shots of the victims. Craven strategically recut sequences, shortened blood splatters, and softened sound effects to make the violence feel more stylized than gory. He later joked that the movie's humor may have saved it. Audiences could laugh to release tension, which made the bloodshed feel less overwhelming. Producer Bob Weinstein even tricked the MPAA at one point by sending the same version twice, claiming he'd toned it down and they passed it. The result was a perfect balance: sharp, shocking, and brutal, but still watchable, the very definition of horror done right. Number 19. Believe it or not, Wes Craven almost didn't direct Scream. By the mid-1990s, he was tired of horror. After Nightmare on Elm Street and other intense projects, he wanted to move toward more dramatic storytelling. But when he read Kevin Williamson's smart, funny, and self-aware, it reignited his passion for the genre. Still, he passed until Drew Barrymore signed on. Her involvement instantly gave the project credibility, and Craven changed his mind. His unique touch blending terror with irony made Scream far more than just another slasher. He leaned into the humor without ever dulling the edge, turning horror cliches into meta-commentary gold. Without Craven's direction, Scream might have been just another forgettable teen thriller. Instead, it became a masterpiece that both celebrated and reinvented everything he'd helped create. The man who invented Freddy Krueger came back to rewrite the rules, and the genre would never be the same. Number 20. When Scream hit theaters in 1996, horror was dying. Slasher films had been milked dry by endless sequels and cliches. But Scream changed everything. It wasn't just another bloodbath. It was a film that knew it was a horror movie. It made fun of the rules while still playing by them, and audiences couldn't get enough. It became a cultural phenomenon, grossing over $170 million worldwide on a modest budget. Suddenly, horror was cool again. Studios rushed to greenlight smart, teen-driven thrillers like I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend. Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson didn't just make a hit, they resurrected an entire genre. Scream inspired a new wave of meta-horror, launched multiple sequels, a TV series, and even influenced modern filmmakers like Jordan Peele and Ari Aster. More than 25 years later, Scream remains a masterclass in reinvention, proof that horror never dies, it just gets smarter. And there you have it, 20 weird and surprising facts about Scream, the movie that sliced its way into pop culture history. Which fact shocked you the most? Drop it in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more creepy deep dives into your favorite horror classics.